Good day everyone. In this video I'll be showing you some techniques in creating this Vitaly Bulgarov inspiration lookalike model. I'll be adding a link to his website below. There will be some time lapses and explanation sections throughout this video. So let's go. Alright, so of course we're going to delete the box, and let's go ahead and start, and let's get on the top view here, and we're going to create some shapes here. So we're going to start off with the polygon tool and bring this out. And basically we're going to now hit the shift key and roll to the left or upward, and will become a 3-point triangle basically. So let's start with this model here. We're going to select the points and basically put in a fillet here to change the roundness of these points. So one thing you got to do is make sure the grid snaps is turned off while you're doing this. So once you do that, just pull it out, and it'll be on the rounded side, so on the plus. So basically a fillet, not a chamfer. So I'm doing like 0.45 here to get a nice roundness. This is the basic start of the model of the shape set we're trying to. That's just the biggest part of the shape is this triangle basically on this shape. So we got to make sure it looks good. So I can pull this down, and then once I do that, I'm going to start going and adding some more detail here. So now here I added in a disc or circle, and I clicked on the actual center of that point in that section over there. So I created that one. That's the first one. And then I'm going to actually hit the Shift D here, and I'm going to use the F key to copy that, and then bring it over and actually hit the other snap on the other side. These things are automatically there, so same thing again, do a Shift D and bring it over. So I'm going to create these circles on these points that are like the center point, and I just wanted to make sure they are extruded a little bit bigger than what they are, of course. So now I'm going to bring these two on the outside down. This is the back side of the actual triangle mechanical shape. So let's bring those down a little bit, and then we're going to select the faces of these two, and we're going to extrude these down with the E key. So let's bring these down a little bit past the triangle base and hit OK. Cool. Alright, so let's take those two circle lines that we had created, those discs, and just going to delete those with the delete key after we select them. Cool. Now let's go and select the other disc that was created, and we're going to bring this down with the G key. So go ahead and bring this down and say OK. And now let's go down to the face selection section here and select it. Make sure it's selected properly. So select it and it'll be highlighted. And we're going to hit the, again, E key, bring it down. And we'll go to the side view here. And this doesn't matter, we're going to be cutting this bottom anyway, but go ahead and hit OK. Now let's go and bring a line out. Let's go hit the center section right there so we can actually make sure it's completely on the base of this. And once we let go of that, we're going to move this in. So let's move it all the way in with the G key. And now we're going to actually start deleting some of these sections here. So let's select this disc here. We're going to use the cut, and we'll select the line, hit OK. And we can delete this with the delete key. Now let's go ahead and select the other object there. Again, hit the cutter, use the same line, hit OK. Now we can delete that as well. Now let's go ahead and select the smaller one. Same thing, hit the line, delete. Go ahead and delete it completely with the delete key. Cool. So I already did this modeling ahead of time. I'm just going back through the process of what I've done. So I might be a little bit behind as I talk. Now I'm going to go in here and actually select the line here and bring it through straight. Let's select this object. I'm going to use the cutter here. I'm going to cut this right here. Hit OK. And see if that went through or not. Sometimes it doesn't do what you expect it to do, but that's okay. Okay, it did cut it. Just can't tell. Now one thing you could do is turn the lines on so you see better. That's what I should have here, so it's easier. So let's go ahead and select the intersection here. We're going to pull this out with a fillet. And this is basically going to be a chamfer to make it a little bit more of an edge. Now we'll go back and just get that little piece there and actually do a fillet on that instead. Now we're going to select these three pieces here, and we're going to actually hit the main piece, and we're going to actually do a Q on that, and then another cue. So we're joining all these 4 pieces together. Now let's go and select this line here and hold the J key or Alt key. So hold the Alt key. Same thing with there and here. Again, hit the Alt key. This selects all the way around the line, as long as there's a round line all the way through. Now I'll start pulling this out, but then I realize that I really need to do a fillet on the edges as well. So I kind of decided not to keep this, so I canceled it. And then I selected these lines here instead. So pull these out and select all the lines all the way around basically. So that one. Just keep going around until you get all of them selected. And now we can pull this out. This will give us a nice fillet throughout the whole thing, all the way around. This is a much better way to go. So, okay, once you got what you wanted, then say okay. Gives it a nice look to it that way. All right, again, we're going to hit the line tool. Here we're going to make a little cut piece into the side here to make it look kind of interesting, to say the least. We're going to come across, make some different design here, and pull it back through. I'm going to cut this main disc itself. I'm going to be putting some other things inside here, basically. And let's go across. We're trying to line this up so it's pretty close. I know there's a trick to this, but I just didn't remember it at the time. So go ahead and select that. You can always adjust after the fact, after you get your form. Let's go select the points. We're going to take some of these hard edges and make them more smooth with a fillet. So we're going to pull these 2 out here out on the positive. Hit OK. Same with these 2 inner ones. Again, a fillet to make it more rounded. We don't want a hard shape there. Hit OK. And then these as well. These 4. Well, these 2 first. Let's pull this out again with the fillet. Hit OK. And then these last 2 on top. Get a little closer. Use the mouse wheel to get closer. And again, a fillet. Cool. All right, now we're going to select this object. And we're going to select the cutter. I'm going to cut this through. Hit OK. There we go. Now I'm going to select the inner piece here. Except the line here, of course. Shoot, that didn't cut the first time, so we had to redo it again. Okay, cool. So that cut through. Now, one thing I didn't like is the edge there, so I'm going to actually select the square tool with the center snap, and I'm going to bring it out here and I'm just bring this through. I'm going to hit the G key here to move it a little bit, and I'm trying to cut this out. I don't like the way that edge looked there, so I'm going to get this lined up somewhat. And the inside here, just kind of manipulating this where I need to go. We'll scale it down just a little bit, and again hit the G key. Bring it down right there, and we'll bring it down a little bit there. And we'll scale this up to kind of fall into place. All right, so hit OK. And again, now we're going to select this object, and we're going to select that piece, and we're going to cut that section there. Cool. It looks much better. Now let's go to the top view, and we're going to bring another section here. Another disc, basically. So let's pull this out. Now let's line it up a little bit. So again, use the G key and then hit the F, and you can line it right on the center that way. Cool. Now let's bring this back a little bit. So what we're doing here is we're adding a tank basically within this section here, so it has some depth to it and just some different interesting looks to it, is what my objective is here. Again, this is not the same design as Vitaly had used, but I'm using my own. It was more of an inspirational view, and again, I'm just trying to get some cool looking shapes here for my mechanical object. So definitely don't want to copy something completely through if I can not help it, but when you're learning, it's good to kind of understand how people do things. As you get better, you kind of take on your own things. I just like his style is really cool. he has a lot of nice stuff there. If you want to check out his artwork on his webpage, I'll have the link down below. Alright, so those two tanks are now in here, and I basically mirrored it to the other side, and I'm cutting it down into the existing object with the Boolean with the Q key, and I kept tool so I can keep the actual disc. Same thing with this side. Select the main object, select the tank, hit the Q, make sure you keep it, and that way you could actually, basically create some depth on the edges to look like it belongs. For some reason it's not cutting. So anyway, I selected it again. Let's get rid of this line here, and this line, just delete those things. Alright, so we're going to select this object, and we're going to basically mirror this over again, just so I can reuse it. So select the mirror, bring it over on the opposite side, hit OK. And then again, we'll go back through here, select this object again, select this one, and again hit the Q. Okay, that time it went great. So keep tool, say OK. So I'm going to fast forward for a little bit, put some music on, and then I'll come back in a few other areas and discuss some more things. All right. So real quick, this model has a bunch of decals added that are available on Blender Market and Gumroad for anyone interested. I'll be adding a link below. Alright, thank you. Alright, back here. So I created another rectangle, and I extruded it out and added some fillets on each edge, and I put it on the edge here, and I'm actually going to be cutting this into both sections, the top and bottom here. These are both separated from each other for the model that I created here. I'm going to bring this out just a little bit so I can make sure I cut this without having a part sticking out. So I'm going to select the top piece and then that piece, and again keep tool. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom piece as well. So again, I hit Q and then Shift Q. That way I can delete the object after the fact. So now I got these two sections in here, which is great. This is kind of what I wanted to get a nice little form here. So I just brought that in a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Hit the G key. Again, we'll bring this in just a little bit. Just give it some variations here. One thing I'll also be doing here is adding some nice fillets around this edge to make it look smoother. Actually, first a chamfer, I guess, on this one. And chamfer on this one. And then I'll be doing a fillet to get the smoothness around the edge. So select that with the Alt key. Same thing here. All four of these. And we can pull this out. It's fine to get that line that goes all around. We never got that one yet, so cool. Hit OK. Good to go. Alright, so I'm going to manipulate this a little bit, make a little bit more of a fillet there. Alright, so now I'm going to go get the line tool. I'm going to cut a section of the front here. So make sure I had this turned in the right direction. I'm going to bring this out, just like that, and then I'm going to actually select the point over here, select it, and also again hit the B key, and we'll pull this out with a fillet to make it nice and smooth. Now let's go select this top object and hit the cutter and select the line and hit OK. Now we can cut this piece out. This will give it some variations of this shape. Alright, so now I'm going to go back in and actually add some fillets to all these lines so they're not so sharp. So I'm going to select those two sections there and pull this out. Again, I'm just doing a fillet on this so it's nice and rounded. So on the plus. Alright, so now I'm going to create a actual disc on the top here to basically create some type of variations. So I'm going to pull this out. It's about right about there. And now that I got this, I'm going to pull this back out with G key. So let's bring this upward. Right, so now I'm going to actually pull this up on with the G key and actually rotate it this angle here. I just want to give it some variation, so let's go and say OK. Now I'll go ahead and select the face, and then we're going to actually select that and push it through. Not too far. It'll cut into some other objects if I do that. So now I'm going to actually select this object out, the outer and the inner object, and we're going to hit the Q key once, and we'll delete that piece. So we're going to select this edge section and delete it. So let's go and select the top piece here and kind of pull this out with a fillet. Hit OK. Now I'm going to create another object. I just thought this would give it a different type of look to it. So I basically created a disc here. And I'm going to hit the G key and move this out. So we'll bring this up here. And then we'll go back to the top. And I'm going to hide some of these things. So let's go and select the object tool, object selection. And let's go ahead and hide these with the H key. Same with this, same with that. Cool. Now let's go back to this line and get rid of it, delete it. Now let's go and bring this rectangle tool out. And we're going to bring this out. First we're actually going to go up to there, bring it out. Now I'm not going to bring it all the way out like it is now. I'm going to actually take the 2 points on the bottom and bring it up, but for now I just want to see what this looks like. So now I'm going to actually take these 2 points and kind of scale them in. The problem with that is it really doesn't give a good look to it, so I decided to go ahead and take the bottom pieces here and just hit the G key and move them upward. So that way I can get a nice form, which is fine. So now we can select the actual line tool, select this, and let's do a radial ray. So let's go and hit the center section here. So go down a little bit right there. And I'm going to bring this up a little bit. Actually, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and hide these points here and keep those outer points selected. I want to kind of change this before I do any other changes. So go ahead and hit the B key to give it a nice fillet. Now let's go ahead and use the actual trim tool. Let's get rid of these edges here. So just select them, get rid of them all, however you need to do it with your selection. That way this will be a nice shape to cut into that existing cylinder. So you just use your mouse to kind of work around slowly. This piece right there. Okay, cool. Now we got the whole thing. Now we can just hit the face tool, and we can actually rotate this around, and we can do an extrude. Cool. Hit OK, and then we can actually go to the edges here. You can't just do one edge because you got these edges that are sharp on the edges on the sections that were cut. We got to go back in and actually adjust those. So we just select each of these. Basically 8 sections times 2 is 16. So let's make sure you get them all. going around the whole thing. This way, when you cut into the other object, you'll already have a nice fillet, and it'll be rounded and smooth. That's the goal of that, so we get ahead of it. So let's pull this out. Hit OK. Then we can select the top, delete that piece. Cool. Now let's go pull this out. So we'll go back in and adjust some things. First of all, we're going to go ahead and cut another section here and make it look nice. So let's bring this inward. And we'll go ahead and use the Q key to cut it. And now we'll do a nice fillet on this as well. This will be a chamfer actually, and then this outer one will be a fillet. Now this will be a fillet too. Okay, so these two areas, we're going to add a fillet to those. So just a small fillet, like 0.002 or something like that. Should be enough. Say okay. All right, cool. Let's keep on going. Now we're going to get this object and actually move it down. So hit the G key, the object selection tool. We'll go right into the area where we have the disc already cut into. And we're also going to rotate this so it actually matches the line there. Let's go down a little bit. We want to make sure that fits in there. Not too close. That looks good. And we also want to make sure it's lined up properly with the other line. You can look at the base here and see the lines. And make sure they're selected properly and move it up a little bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and cut this out. So make sure you select that piece there and select the new disc that we just created and hit that secondly, and then hit the Q key to cut that in. Cool. Now I noticed there's a couple areas here that have a little bit of rework that we need to do. For some reason they did not. For some reason I must have missed them when I created the shape. Again, you can always fix this by just selecting and just pulling it out. Alright, so I'm going to fast forward through this section again. Just a lot of this cleanup work to get the edges nice and clean. So I thought this would be important to show you this too as well. So what I'm going to do here is basically going to get basically a line here. I'm going to cut this piece out, and I'll just remeld it back together again, or re-weld it back together again, so it never looked like it was gone. So I could actually do that, cut that piece out. So again, I used the cutter tool, and then I was able to go in here and actually create some depth in here. So I'm going to go to the side view here, and I'm going to use the rectangle tool again, and I'm going to pull this out. So use the center's point, pull this out, and get to where you think it would look nice. And then again, select the points, and we'll do a fillet on these. So let's pull this out. So it's nice and rounded. Actually, on this, I did a chamfer first, and now I'm going to do a fillet. So, okay, that looks cool. So hit OK. Now we're going to actually use the face tool, and we're going to cut through this into the shape. And so select it, hit the E key, and let's bring it through backwards. So it has some depth to it. That's great. And now we can select the object. After we're done extruding, select the object. So object selection, and I select this and hit the Q key. That didn't take for some reason, so if that happens, another suggestion is get rid of this piece in the front. Go ahead and select the object tool and just move this out a little bit closer or away from it. So, and we can delete this. Actually, let's bring this inward a little bit before we cut. So it's still showing up a little bit here. So I select the object, select that one object, and hit Q. I kept the tool here. I thought it'd be nice to put a little different variation here. So I'm going to pull this out again. And this time I'm going to we'll scale this piece up a little bit, but I'm going to do an edge piece here. So let's go ahead and look at this. Just suck the line all the way around. And we're going to do a little trick here with the offset, or actually bring it out a little bit and just scale it. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and select this again, hit Shift D again, and just hide that. Now we hit the two faces together and do a loft. Hit OK. So we delete this, So now we can scale this up a little bit on the Z. Just bring it in. I'm also going to scale a little bit more. There we go. Okay, hit OK. So now we can select the outer and inner, and then hit the Q key. That gives it some variations on the edge there. And we hit the line tool and kind of clean this up a little bit. This time I'm going to use a fillet, and I'm going to use a fillet over here too. Now the inside, did a chamfer there. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a disc again, right in the inside, a smaller disc, not a big disc. And we're going to actually use this to kind of pull this out. So we're going to extrude this with the face tool. And then we're going to hit the line tool here and make this more rounded. And we're going to take the piece on the top and kind of cut into it. So creating some depth here, basically. So Shift D this, and we could take this section here and scale it down a little bit more. Hit the G key to move it out, and then we'll hit the face tool. So we can actually push that right in. So select it, go ahead and extrude with the E key, go in, hit OK. Now select the main section there, and then the second section, and delete it with the Q key. Cool. Now let's go ahead and hit the line here and do a little bit of a nice fillet there. And we can select this line here and delete it. So again, created this. I want to create some more of these and basically do a array here, rectangle array. And again, I'm going to fast forward to the rest of this to the end. All right, thank you.